Hello dear students, welcome to the course of Engineering Thermodynamics. Myself Mihir Mistry, Assistant Professor of Mechanical Department at LJ Institute of Engineering and Technology. Today we are going to discuss our session on second law of thermodynamics. We have already covered the first law of thermodynamics, so let us discuss the second law of thermodynamics. So before moving further in detail, we are going to discuss three topics. That is what the very first is limitations of first law of thermodynamics, then Kelvin-Planck statement, followed by PMM2. Also we will discuss about the cyclic heat engine, right? So let us start our topic. So the very first is limitations of first law of thermodynamics. So what is the limitation of first law of thermodynamics? So before doing so, moving forward, we will recall the first law of thermodynamics statement. So what is the statement? So energy can neither be created nor be destroyed. It can be transferred from one form to another form, right? So we all know that very clearly, right? So now just understand it. The very first example is what? Direction of a process, right? So that is the limitation of first law. So you cannot identify the direction of a particular process by following the first law of thermodynamics. Okay, so let us understand how it is. So take example of hot tea in the morning in your bedroom. Okay, so what will happen? You know very well that the hot tea will get cold by itself, right, after a certain time. Right. So now according to first law of thermodynamics, cold tea can also automatically get hot, right? Because first law tells us what? That energy can transfer from one form to another form. So now take example of hot tea, right? So hot tea can get cold, right, after a certain time. So that is what? Transfer of energy from high temperature to low temperature. Now according to first law, transfer of energy from one form to another form is possible, right? So that means what? That transfer of energy or transfer of heat from low temperature to high temperature is also possible according to first law, right? So that is what? That means what practically? That your cold tea on the table may get hot by itself after a certain time. But we are aware that that is not possible, because we know that the nature of the physics or nature of our laws are what? That always high temperature to low temperature the heat will transfer, right? So that we are very well aware practically. That is why you will tell me, sir, it is not possible. But according to the perspective of first law of thermodynamics, it is possible that the hot tea can get cold by itself, and also the cold tea will get hot by itself, right? So that direction of a process you cannot decide using first law of thermodynamics. Okay, so see, that is the limitation of first law of thermodynamics. Okay, it cannot tell you that yes, this is how the process will occur. Yes, the hot tea will get cold, not the cold tea will get hot. You cannot define it by first law of thermodynamics. Okay, I hope you are clear with this point. Now the second point is what? Feasibility of a process. Now what do you mean by feasibility of a process? So simple, students. Feasibility means that practically the process is possible. Then it is known as feasibility of the process, right? So for example, another example, that fall, right? So we know that the waterfall will always occur from high elevation to low elevation. So reverse of the same is not possible, right? So according to first law of thermodynamics, it is possible, reverse process. But we know that it is not practical or feasible that the waterfall will take place from low elevation to high elevation, right? So that is what the feasibility of a process. Okay, same way, another example, let us say this is a metal road. Okay, now let us consider that this portion is having temperature of 100 degrees Celsius and this portion is having temperature of 50 degrees Celsius. Okay, is it possible? Right? Is it possible? No, it is not possible practically, because it is a metal road, so it will conduct the heat. So that is why what will happen? You cannot achieve different temperature at these two ends, right? But according to first law of thermodynamics, this process is possible or feasible, right? Because the energy can transfer from one form to another form. First law only tells us that yes, energy can transfer, that's all. It cannot think about the feasibility. Yes, that this process is practically possible or this process is not practically possible. Same example of hot tea or coffee, right? So we know that the cold coffee or cold tea will not get hot by itself, right? So that is what feasibility. Okay, so first law does not define the feasibility of a process. So you cannot define the feasibility of a process. Okay, this is what the meaning of feasibility of a process means. Okay, next is what? Spontaneity. Spontaneity means what? Whether the process will occur by itself or not. So that is what spontaneity is. Okay, so from first law you cannot define about the spontaneity of a process, right? So these are all the limitations of first law of thermodynamics, and here I have shown you the diagram, that diagram of metal rod, right? Then diagram of hot tea, then diagram of waterfall, right? So these all are the diagrams, right? So you can appreciate this. Okay, so remember students, I am repeating again myself, what is the limitations of first law of thermodynamics? Limitation is that you cannot decide whether the process is possible or not using first law, because first law only tells us that yes, that energy can transfer from one form to another form. Okay, so this all the things, that the direction of the process or feasibility of a process or spontaneity of the process can be decided using second law of the thermodynamics. Okay, so before doing so, we will understand what is the cyclic heat engine term. Okay, so as you can see on the diagram on the left hand side of the screen, you can see that the piston cylinder arrangement is shown over here. Now you just let us quickly revise, as you are very well aware about the piston cylinder work, right? So what will happen? See here, from here the Q1 amount of heat is supplied. So what will happen? As the heat is supplied, so the temperature and pressure in this cavity will increase. So due to that, what will happen? This piston will be moving towards the left hand side to the right hand side, right? So that is known as expansion. So expansion work is written over here by WE, right? Further, what will happen? Further, as you can see that the compression work will occur, that is what WC. So compression work, during that the piston will move from right hand side to the left hand side, and at the same time after compression what will happen? Heat rejection is taking place, that is Q2. So now what will happen, dear students? Understand, you have an engine like this, right? Let me denote it by E. You are giving some heat Q1, you are rejecting some heat Q2, you are expanding some work, that is WE, and you are giving some work WC. So at here you will appreciate the fact that the net work will be always positive. That means what, sir? That means that expansion work will be always higher than compression work, right? So that is why the net work will be what? WE minus WC, right? So this difference will always be higher or positive. So that is why W net will be always positive. So what is the meaning of this thing? See, during our first law of thermodynamics, I have told you the sign convention. What is the sign convention? So heat is added, that is Q1. Heat is rejected, that is Q2. So here you have some net heat transfer, that is summation of Q. So by transferring some heat, you are getting some work, right? By transferring some heat, you are getting some work during a cycle, right? Because this is a cyclic process. Same thing is occurring again and again, right? So this is a cyclic process. So just observe that here, from heat, by supplying the heat, you are extracting the work, W, right? So that kind of engine is known as cyclic heat engine. Clear? What is the meaning of heat engine? That your input is what? Your input is what? Your input is heat, right? Q. And your output is what? Your output is work, that is W. Okay, pardon me with the writing, that is W, right? So that is what input and output. So whenever you are having any device in which your input is heat and your output is some work, then it will be known as heat engine. And in particular over here, the whole process is taking place in cycle, that is why it is known as cyclic heat engine. Let us take another example for the ease of understanding. As you can see, this is the typical representation of devices of any thermal power plant. So here you can appreciate that the furnace, from the furnace some amount of heat Q1 will be supplied to the boiler, right? So at the inlet of the boiler you will have the liquid water, right? Liquid water. And at the outlet of the boiler you will have the steam, right? Or you can say the gaseous phase, right? So the steam is transferred further to the turbine, right? So turbine will produce some work, that is WT, right? Further from the turbine outlet the steam will send to the condenser. So condenser will do what? Condenser will condense the steam, so it will convert the steam into water back. And here at the pump what will happen? The water will be pumped to the higher pressure, right? So here, sir, what do you mean by this diagram? Simple, just identify the heat transfer and work transfer. The very first heat transfer is this one. You are supplying some heat Q1. Then next work transfer is here. You are getting turbine work WT. Then next heat transfer is here. You are rejecting some heat Q2. And then next work transfer is here. You are supplying some work WP. So here also you can see that this is a cyclic process, right? This is a cyclic process. So same process is taking place simultaneously, right? So here what happens? You are supplying some heat, you are rejecting some heat, and you are getting some net work done. And net work done is nothing but the difference between this turbine work and the pump work. Okay, I hope you are clear with this point. So here also what is happening, as I have told you, that by transferring some amount of heat you are getting some amount of work. So summation of Q is equal to summation of W during the cyclic process. So this kind of engine is known as cyclic heat engine. Remember students, whenever I am saying you the word engine, then in your mind it should not be typically imagine that sir is talking about piston cylinder engine. No, I am talking generalized thing. Okay, any device which is converting heat into work during a cyclic process, that will be known as cyclic heat engine. Clear? Okay, so for cyclic heat engine, if you want to identify the performance, then you can identify it by 1 minus Q2 divided by Q1, right? That is what efficiency of heat engine. Clear? Let's move forward. Next topic is thermal energy reservoir. So what is thermal energy reservoir mean? What does it mean? So large body of infinite heat capacity capable of accepting and rejecting unlimited quantity of heat, that is known as thermal energy reservoir. Okay, so let us understand that how it is defined. Okay, so simple, see, whenever you are talking about thermal energy reservoir, so before talking about thermal energy reservoir, let me inform you about the water reservoir. So at your home you might have an overhead tank or underground tank. So that is nothing but what? Water reservoir. So water reservoir means what? It is large quantity, it is a place where large quantity of water is stored. So same way thermal energy reservoir means what? It is a place where large quantity of thermal energy is stored. Clear? Right? So now let us take the example, understand it in practical. So if you take the example of atmosphere, so atmosphere is nothing but a thermal energy reservoir. Why? Because if you think about it practically, then daily so many air compressors are working, because as you are very well aware that at our home air conditioners are used. So if you are aware that outside of our room some compressor is situated, right? So that compressor will do what? That compressor and condenser arrangement will reject the heat to the outside atmosphere, right? So as you can practically think that in this world there are so many air conditioner units, so many large number of air conditioner units. So all air conditioner units are having certain compressor and condenser. So all are rejecting heat into our atmosphere. Okay, now understand the practical thing. Though we are rejecting large amount of heat into the atmosphere, but the atmosphere temperature is not getting changed drastically. Okay, so that is what the reservoir is. Now I am telling you the definition. It is large amount of infinite heat capacity. Okay, the word is very important. Infinite heat capacity. That means what? it is capable of storing or rejecting large number of heat. Okay, so capable of accepting and rejecting unlimited quantity of heat. So that is known as thermal energy reservoir. Okay, so if you reject the heat into the reservoir or you extract the heat from the reservoir, the temperature of the reservoir will remain same. Okay, let me give you another example of the thermal energy reservoir, that is sun. Okay, as you are very well aware, the temperature of sun is not reducing, right? Though we are extracting many energy from the sun, but the sun temperature is not getting changed, right? So sun is nothing but thermal energy reservoir. Clear? Okay, so this is what the thermal energy reservoir means. You are extracting or rejecting large amount of heat, but the temperature of the reservoir will remain same or constant. That is known as thermal energy reservoir. Clear? Now remember, here there are two types of reservoir, that is source and sink. Okay students, what is the meaning of source? So the reservoir which is rejecting the heat, okay, or the reservoir from which we are extracting the heat and its temperature is not getting changed by substantial amount, that is known as source. Okay, so example of source is what? Sun. Okay, and then next is what? Sink. Sink means what? Acha, example of source is furnace also. Okay, then example of sink, or what is the meaning of sink? So sink means the reservoir which is having or which is accepting large amount of heat, though its temperature is not getting changed drastically, that is known as sink. Okay, so one is source which is giving the heat and the other is sink which is accepting the heat. Okay, so our atmosphere is example of sink. Clear? Also you can take ocean or large rivers as the example of sink, because we are extracting the heat into that thing, but the temperature of that particular substance is not getting changed. Okay, so that is the meaning of thermal energy reservoir. Okay, so I have shown over here the diagram of the typical furnace or ocean. Okay, now see students, this is how the typical representation of the heat engine will be presented. Okay, whenever I am telling you or whenever you are dealing with any example of heat engine in second law of thermodynamics, then always try to capture this diagram. Okay, so we will use this diagram in our examples. Okay, so this is what the source. This is block diagram. That means you are representing each and everything by drawing a block. Okay, that is known as block diagram. Okay, so real thing might be different. Okay, so this is source. That means what? Thermal energy reservoir. So from that source you are extracting some heat Q1 and you are supplying that heat to this heat engine. See here I have shown you the cyclic heat engine, right? So the cyclic heat engine means what? You have boiler, then you have turbine, then you have condenser and you have pump. So that all four processes I have represented over here by a cycle. See, I have shown the cycle in anti-clockwise manner. Sorry, clockwise manner. Okay, so that is what the meaning of the cycle is. Okay, and this is the typical representation of the cycle. Okay, now let's move forward. As you can see, by extracting some heat, it is supplied to this heat engine. Okay, and the heat engine is doing some turbine work WT, also it is consuming some work WP, but the net work, as I have told you, will be always positive. That means this turbine work will be always greater than this pump work or the compressor work. Okay, next is what? It is rejecting some heat Q2 to what? Sink. Okay, so this is how you will represent the diagram of typical heat engine. Okay, you have source, you have sink, so you will get some heat from source, you will reject the heat into the sink, in between you have engine, this engine is producing some work and it is also consuming some work. Clear? So this is how the typical cyclic heat engine is represented. Always try to draw this diagram 3 or 4 times by yourself at your home. Okay, because it is important for numerical perspective. Okay, now Kelvin-Planck statement. So what is Kelvin-Planck statement? So Kelvin-Planck statement is that it is impossible for a cyclic device, or it is impossible for a device operating in a cycle to produce net work by exchanging heat with only single reservoir. Okay, I am repeating again myself. It is impossible for a device operating in a cycle to produce net work by exchanging heat with single reservoir only. So what does it mean? It means simple, that Kelvin-Planck told us that you cannot convert. See, here you do not have any heat rejection. See, so heat rejection is equal to 0. So Kelvin-Planck told us that Q2 cannot be 0. It should be having some positive value. Okay, simple. Okay, now let us understand in different perspective. What is the different perspective? Simple. As you can see, heat is supplied and work is done. So now if Q2 is 0, then what will happen? The whole heat is transferred to the work. Now you think practically is it possible? No, because heat is what? Low grade energy. Low grade energy, and work is what? High grade energy, right? And it is the nature of the physics that you cannot convert low grade energy into high grade energy completely, right? So that is why you cannot transfer the heat completely into the work. Clear? Okay, so that is why, as you can see over here in this diagram, this is what the Kelvin-Planck told us. Okay, so now from Kelvin-Planck statement you can identify the PMM2, that is what? Perpetual motion machine of second kind. Okay, so as you can see on the diagram on the screen, here's perpetual motion machine of second kind is shown to you guys, right? And perpetual motion machine is definition is what? It is a fictitious machine. Okay, fictitious means what? It is not possible, or it is imaginary machine. Okay, so fictitious machine which is able to convert heat into work completely. So we know that it is not possible. Okay, but it is, if it is so, if such machine exists, then it will be known as PMM2. Clear? Okay, I hope you are clear up to this point. So PMM2, if it is asked, then you have to draw this diagram. Okay, and if Kelvin-Planck statement is asked, then you have to draw diagram like this. In PMM2 you will show that Q2 is equal to 0. Okay, so you can also tell us that if any device which is violating the Kelvin-Planck statement, that device is also known as PMM2, because PMM2 is also representing the Kelvin-Planck statement, right? Okay, further again I am repeating myself, students. Kelvin-Planck statement is what? As I have told you, if a device is operating in a cycle, it is impossible for a device to completely produce the work by exchanging heat with single reservoir only. Okay, because here you do not have any heat rejection, that is Q2 is equal to 0. That means you are only transferring or exchanging heat with single reservoir. Okay, only single reservoir. So that is not possible. That is what our Kelvin-Planck told. Okay, so we will keep up to this point today, right? Thank you.